Morning, everyone. Welcome to the very first Central City Revitalisation Subcommittee meeting. It's been a long time coming, isn't it? And I think we've all been waiting for it. Just very quickly before we start, welcome to all the members, but also the non-members. So, obviously, anyone can attend this. The Mayor is a member ex officio, but any other councillors are welcome to attend. But our process is that everybody can participate in questions or debate, but only the actual subcommittee members can vote. And I've asked Councillor Huata to be here because she's Chair of Economic Development and Growth, and it feels to me a very important connection that she is part of this. And so we will look at whether there's a possibility of actually making her an official member of the committee as well, with that in mind. In terms of process, it's a formal subcommittee, so the same rules apply as to the council or standing committee meetings, with questions and debate and vote. And with that, I will just get onto the agenda. Apologies, we have a full apology from Councillor Liu, who's in China. Do we have any others?
I will get to leave at 11:30 for 12 o'clock.
Thank you, Councillor Maria. It's noted. Any others? All right, I'll move that the apologies be accepted. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Strange. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Confirmation of the agenda. Here I will make a little apology about the lateness of the Chair's report. It was my very first Chair's report, and I had a lot to get my head around, so I do apologise. It was later than I wanted. In future, you can expect it to go out with the agenda. We have, so it's a late item noted there. At 10:30, I am planning to take the CBD, HCBA, for a short presentation, and an item that I hope will last no longer than half an hour. So before that, I'm hoping that we'll get through the Chair's report and possibly even the GM's report. And I would suggest that once the HCBA has had their presentation at about 11 o'clock, we could have a cup of coffee, have a break. Any questions or comments about that? All good? All right, well, I'll move that the confirmation of agenda be approved. A seconder for that? Councillor O'Leary. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried unanimously. Are there any declarations of interest? No, no declarations of interest. Right, we go to item 4, which is public forum. And I'm going to welcome former Mayor Margaret Evans and her troop to come forward. We can probably pull up another seat there. Welcome. Great to have you here. Do you want to start? And you'll have 5 minutes for your presentation and questions.
Chairman Jeff, and may we begin by welcoming my two colleagues here, Neil Kujanvan. Neil is, I'm not allowed to say heritage anymore, but he will explain that, and Russell Armitage, who's very interested in the arts and culture of the city. And most of you know me, and so I'm going to begin by showing this, which may explain why we're here talking about footsteps into history. We firstly congratulate Mayor Tim for setting up this subcommittee. We think it's absolutely and utterly essential, and although we came together to look at telling the stories of the street names in the CBD, earlier this year we've done 2 walks right around the CBD so that we could see for ourselves. We were essentially looking at the street signs to see where we might put some additional information and QR codes. And instead, we came back with a vision to work closely with this committee. We represent a wide group of people, including people like Richard Swanson, who actually lives in the city. So we've got a great group of talent, and we want to work with you. And the first suggestion that we are making is please clean up the CBD. It is appalling. And so a question for you, Mr. Chairman, and we know Maria's here, not Maria, where is she? Rachel's over there. We would like you to get to grips with the financial aspects, because it does seem to us that there has been a reduction in money that's allocated from all aspects. The gardens are appalling. And Blair, this is for you. The template information that you put in your report is not being achieved. And now's the time to get started, ready for spring planting, because we remember the days of Mayor Julie Hardacre. And remember, she put in all of those roses and how magnificent it was amidst controversy. So that's really what we want to say to you. There's lots to be done, but the CB needs a preparatory spring clean. Please do that, find the budget for it. Sorry, Jeff, we love some of the garden pace upgrading, but that's not a priority. We think you're spending too much capital and there needs to be more on operating money. Our final point is be innovative. We've talked about things like permeable surfaces in your footpaths. Sarah, this one's for you. Recycled tyres, which you can put into footpaths. They're soft to walk on. They give Mother Earth a drink. Then think about other innovative things you could do. And Jeff, I've already talked to you about this. How about starting off a task force green again? Bring in unemployed young people, train them in a diverse range and get them to work in the whole CBD. There's some great talent. So that's me. We're just urging you to fix up the CBD, and we're suggesting start with the central and south quadrant.
I'd just like to pick up on the PR side of things. I've been around myself 3/4 of a century, and a third of that time, for a quarter of a century, I was in the Fourth Estate. And one of the things which is coming out these days is people are against anything that you talk about history and anything that you talk about heritage. And as we know, the council has just recently, in the last few years, spent considerable amount of money putting heritage zones here, there and everywhere. And all people have perceived that to be is to be roadblocks as to what they can do with their property now because it's got a heritage listing. So what we would like to refer to this now, instead of being called the footsteps into history, it will be the pathway to cultural legacy. Cultural legacy is becoming the new terminology to soften the approach when we're talking about things from history or looking at our heritage. And so it's just a PR exercise, but it's starting to move. I was at quite a big meeting in Auckland just last Thursday, and they're saying, hang on, we can't talk about history and heritage in Auckland now, we have to talk about cultural heritage. So I'd just like to sow that seed in your minds. Whenever you're thinking about it, am I talking about heritage, which is going to cause a roadblock, or am I looking at the cultural legacy of the central city and how we're going to do something with it to brighten it up? I've got half a second. Thank you very much.
No, wait a minute, stay there.
Question
We'll
time.
finish. We'll finish. Look, I hadn't planned to put any orders at all. I just came along to support Margaret. But I'll say a couple of things. As a non-car owner, I think I can speak on this without any vested interest. But this committee's final objective must be to have more people in the CBD. And of course, smartening it up, making it look more attractive is a very important part of that. But I think if you ask any business owner, and I've asked most of them as I've gone around just asking questions, and I know Barry Radford here will confirm this, that one of the most important things, I'm afraid to say, is parking. I know it's boring, but it is important. And that is what most customers and business owners will say. And there seems to be a resistance within the transport section, whom I have very good service from, in really dealing with this. And just give you a couple of, well, not two examples, but one thing that needs to be done is much more angle parking. And if you want some examples, look at Palmerston North. I've been down there several times, and they have a very impressive central city, and the streets that, and I've checked this, that are as wide as the ones in Hamilton, have angle parking on both sides. The first street that should be looked at is Knox Street, angle parking. I've done a count. You would more than treble the number of parks. The other is Barton Street. One side should be angle parking. Now, they're safer for cyclists, and women, prefer angle parking. The other thing that amuses me, we have these enormously wide pavements. I've tried to find out when they were done. If you look at Victoria Street, huge pavements, great sort of boulevard-style pavements with nobody on them. And many of the shop owners, particularly in the area of Victoria Street, north of Bryce Street, would like to see them halved and angle parking put in. And the same applies to some opposite the Browsers bookshop. You could halve the size of the pavement, not much cost, and put an angle parking. The other strange thing is, in Auckland, for example, despite what they've done to narrow Queen Street, buses still go up and down Queen Street, all the public buses to most routes. For some reason, there's a policy here not to have buses going up and down Victoria Street, whereas I think buses add buzz and they add safety, and they also add convenience, particularly now with the regional theatre, a great asset to the city, and that's what has to be built on. There are many people coming to and from Hamilton where buses going up the main street would be a good thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for that. We have gone well over time, but if there are some pressing questions, let's take them. Councillor Strange.
Thank you, Jeff. I think the other thing is, because there are three presenters, are you presenting as one group within 5 minutes, or three presenters across 5 minutes
We're
each?
all one group.
Just one group, okay, just clarifying. Yeah, so basically my question, I've got a few, I'll just narrow it down to one. The size of the CBD. So what's the ideal size of the CBD for a city our size? What would you say?
We've read some of the reports which show the 3 zones because it's there and it's what you do with it. And so we're suggesting you start with the central southern zone. We've wondered about whether it's Bryce Street, south, or whether it's perhaps London Street, but Bryce Street makes sense. There's nothing you can do with the geography, but what you can do is beef up the one bit first. And what we're saying with the regional theatre, with the restaurants and things, start with that end. Also, the heritage that's not heritage anymore is very much the south end as well. Yeah. And a lot of the older buildings there, and one of the things which we didn't say, we think you should look at zoning, because it may be some of those empty buildings could take a very much gentler approach to what's allowed in them. For instance, we might suggest that residential, even on the ground floor, and Neil's very keen on using things like empty shop fronts, which are so grubby so often, clean them up and use them for display purposes. That could be great for event promotion. There's a whole pile of stuff, and it looks better.
Thank you.
Councillor Mead.
Chair Jeff, as a question, if we're going to revitalise the CBD, would buses on the main street bring people to the main street and actually win something with what we need to do with the shops and the people, in your opinion?
Sorry.
In your opinion, if
Yeah.
we put buses down the main street, would that bring the people that we need to the main street to increase that shopping facility type of thing?
I use buses a lot, and I would say that it would be more convenient for people who are on those buses, rather than ending up in the transport centre, which is fine, that if it was, if some of the routes went up and down the Victoria Street, it would be much more convenient, because despite what the Transport Department says, the stops along Anglesey Street are not that convenient. There should be one right outside Centre Place, and there is room for it. And I've given them photographs, but they say that the stop that's up is it London Bryce Street, and the stop that's right down Anglesey Street are adequate. Well, for most people, they're not. But yes, I think it would, and that's precisely why the Auckland City Council, despite all its faults, has kept buses going up and down Queen Street.
And can I add to this? This is one of the reasons we are very keen to move out of the 5 minutes we've been allocated and perhaps have time more informally with this committee, where we can bounce a few ideas about and we can suggest people who've got experience that can come and talk with you. You know, there's so many ideas of what can be done, and there's goodwill towards doing it.
Yes.
Thompson will make this the last question on
Thank you,
this
Chair.
occasion.
Margaret, thank you. You mentioned filling empty storefronts. I saw in Oamaru, I saw in Oamaru a news article around them supporting the use of empty stores, and I understand it would require facilitation, some funding to actually make that happen. Do you have any further details or ideas around that suggestion?
We've talked with Vanessa Williams, and this is not, you know, nothing we're suggesting is unusual or not been experienced before. So it's a matter of saying to those empty building owners, would you allow this to happen? And they will want certain security. We've also talked about the old, does anybody remember the old Resene paint program? Resene's came up with a sponsorship where they would provide paint to paint up some of the older frontages of buildings. So there's also elements like that. And because of your green interests, Sarah, can I also point out permeable footpaths? Some of you, and I know Jeff knows, Washington DC, that whole national walkway, 250 years old, that's permeable surface. So there's nothing new under the sun. We're just not necessarily doing it here, and it's time we did.
And thanks for the questions. And as you say, I look forward to more informal work between us. Because of the length between meetings, a lot of the work that this subcommittee will do will be informal. So I do look forward to continuing that relationship with you guys.
And find the money.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, so we are now on to the Chair's report. Has everybody managed to find the late attachment there okay? So I will just very briefly summarise it. You'll see some recommendations at the end of it as well. So just by way of a very quick summary, it sort of covers, in fact, some of what Jamie raised in terms of the principles of the CCTP in terms of combating the size of our central city by looking at 3 distinct zones to try and improve vibrancy. It talks about the hope that we can do work to link up some of our assets in the central city better. And you'll see in our staff report later on discussion about the dashboard which staff are developing, and it's going to be a very useful tool for us, I think, in terms of knowing what's happening next year, what's happening in 10 years. I've just referenced our continuing work in Garden Place, where we're making incremental improvements, and I also reference a lighting plan. We have the funding for Garden Place and Civic Square, and we'll be bringing councillors together for a drop-in session on the 25th, where they can have a look at what that will look like, and we'll get some feedback on that. And I'm hoping that councillors will be favourable towards it, which means we can just get on and do it, which is, I think, is what this committee's about. Reference parking plan. This subcommittee will be at the forefront of an opportunity to do a study, a holistic study on parking in the central city, which will help inform the long-term plan. And I think, you know, parking is something that everybody has ideas on, but it's something I'm quite keen to get my teeth into there. So with that, I'll leave it open to questions. Yeah.
Right, thanks, Chair. In terms of the size of the central city, you mentioned that there. Do you currently have any thoughts around whether that would fit into a work program and whether the government changes around the RMA would somewhat hinder our ability to make decisions in this space? So, for example, if we did want to allow for residential on the bottom floor in the north part of Victoria.
Yep. So my understanding is that that is actually not as restricted as I had thought it was, that particular measure north of London Street. So what I'm going to do is, because my report traverses quite a lot of stuff covered in later staff reports, I'm going to sort of allow staff to to answer some of these questions as well. Okay. So Blair, you might want to take that.
Yes, look, unfortunately Juliana's just not here at the moment. We've just got a big staff meeting right now, but I'm not the expert. We can come back to it later, but Juliana certainly probably has a different view to some that's been expressed, that there is quite an enabling framework for some of those aspirations in the northern part of the central city. So we can come back to that, Councillor Sarah.
And Councillor Thompson, in answer to your question, I would like to find ways that we can in our work program progress that. And obviously planning levers was the first thought in my mind. Whether there are other ways of making it attractive, I hesitate to talk about DC remissions or something, but what other incentives can we find to encourage the development where we want it to go? How do we encourage residential north of London Street? So I'm very, very open to us finding ways to do that, and I would suggest that staff could report back to us in the next committee meeting with some more meat on that bone.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, just in terms of, you mentioned quick wins, and there was the mention in the public forum around the use of empty shop fronts. Is that something that you're considering at the moment, or is that something that we could, as a subcommittee within this meeting, discuss in the right?
Yeah, look, I'm completely open to how we might do that. I'm not sure where in the. It's probably something in terms of the Central City Transformation Delivery item 8 that we could discuss.
Okay.
But yeah, let's progress it for sure.
All right, I'll bring that back up then at item 8.
Please.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you.
Councillor Mead.
From following on from what we had from our guests, I'm concerned a little bit over the last, how many, 50 years of being a resident of Hamilton, that Garden Place has been a piecemeal change every year. We've got a new plan with the idea that we've got maybe buses on Victoria Street to bring people in, the need for cleanliness. Where's the whole plan? We've got little bits that are popping up like lights or this or that. When we probably need to sit down, and this is a question, have we ever sat down and said, what's the whole plan for everything?
For Garden Place?
For everything. If we're talking CBD, the Garden Place, that's the street. We're talking all sorts of things. You know, I think bringing buses back into Victoria Street would be great. Okay. But have we got a whole plan that encompasses all that? Because for the last sort of 50 years, I've seen piecemeal stuff done in Garden Place, and it's changed so many times.
We have the Central City Transformation Plan, and there's been 2 iterations of that done. And I referenced that in the Chair's report. Yeah. And I actually think the first Central City Transformation Plan was the one that I probably got the most out of, to be honest, which is ironic because I chaired the committee that developed the second one. But I think the first one has some principles, and I refer to it. With the river plan, in terms of how we interact with the river, and the CCTP, some basic principles there. So I think there is an overarching plan. But I'm happy for others to hop in here. But in terms of Garden Place, I think that is a slightly different animal, because this council before has undertaken major revamps of Garden Place, and it hasn't worked, quite simply. So the last council really decided, hey, let's stick to incremental changes. Let's not try and do anything dazzling with Garden Place because we don't think there's a public appetite for it. And that's really the process that I am following here, that we rely on actually some small wins, and also we improve activation rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. But if anyone wants to talk about the CCTP...
If I might just, and we can explore this further in item 8, but my sense, Councillor, is that the focus here is the long-term plan budgets supporting the implementation of the Central City Transformation Plan. There's enough guidance and direction in that plan. The challenge I think you hear a lot is where are the budgets, where is the funding, so where is the money? And I think that is, you've heard from the public forum, some issues. A lot of that relates to the size of the operating budgets available to support the delivery of the plan. So that would be my comment in response to that.
Any further questions? Okay. All right. Well, we have some recommendations there on page 61. We might be able to get those up. When they arrive, I presume you've all had a good look at the recommendations. So I'm going to move those. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Strange, seconder. So given that I've given a bit of an introduction, I am not going to speak first, but I might reserve my right of reply. Councillor O'Leary. Yeah, we're into debate.
Oh, okay. Before I put the boot in, I'm fully supportive of the motion, and I know that your intention is also that these are short-term fixes for that will build upon through the LTP. I know that you are laser focused on that, so I'm fully supportive of that. Look, I'm going to focus my debate on Garden Place because if I didn't, possibly those who know me would think that was odd. My views on Garden Place have been well known, and my strong view against just putting it up is well known, because activation is the answer. And activation is about people arriving, people lingering, people staying, as well as people moving through. The only constant that this council has done in the last so many years, to be blunt, is nothing to achieve activation. It's great to have events, but events are short term, they bring people and then the people go. That is not activation. Unless we have a strategic approach that doesn't include lengthy discussions on what colour tiles we're going to do or what colour the flowers are going to be, nothing will change. We have to take a strategic approach. We have to look at the big rocks. Whether that would be, and this is just throwing it out there, and I've said these things before, the MEF fund purchasing buildings, whether that's a lane on the northern side to break the space up, whether that is a strategic public-private partnership with a commercial operator that will bring in commercial options for the area. Until we take a strategic approach, nothing will happen. Just quickly in my last 15 seconds, thank you, Chair, great report, you've covered absolutely everything. I think the agenda is definitely one that says this committee is about doing the work, and I'm very pleased that I've been included on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you to Councillor O'Leary. Councillor Huata.
Morena, thank you very much, Chair. Deputy Mayor Jeff Taylor, for your Chair's report. I'm unsure as to whether I can actually vote on anything because I'm not formally been put onto the committee, but I would like to share some kōrero if that's okay. Cool. I just want to highlight the importance of the Events Subcommittee and its natural relationship to this committee. I do hear Councillor O'Leary's thoughts on how events come and go. But if we were very strategic in terms of major events that do happen throughout the year, kicks off in February, Waitangi, March, Homegrown, back to February, sorry, the Garden Arts Festival, move along to Matariki, June. So there are actual key events that we can signify that will give us a continuity in terms of events in the city. Activation, as Councillor Leary said, is key. We can pretty up the town as much as we like, but if we don't have something to bring people here, then that's a lost opportunity. So I'd love to see us working close together, and you're also the chair of that committee, and I'm your deputy on that one, so looking forward to that. In terms of parking, we hear what the public wants and what the majority of our councillors are hoping to do. What I'm interested to know is how we recoup the potentially lost revenue from no longer having parking. So something to think about. Also, we want to be a big city, but sometimes we think still like a small town. So kia kaha Kirikiriroa H-Town, city of the future. If that's the way we want to go, we need to be thinking at that level as well. Tēnā koutou.
Thank you, Councillor Huata. Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Chair Jeff. Thank you, Councillor Angela. Brilliant. Exactly what you... Yeah. For me, we need to be very cautious. We're going to spend $400,000 on some lights, and then we talk about the Pullman Hotel wanting to put more lights in. So we're putting lights on top of lights. We need to investigate the 2 hours free parking. I don't think we've gone down the track of completely going inside out of that yet and finding how we're going to recover funding and the benefits of that. But also, regard Garden Place, we've got to stop piecemealing it. We can bring events there, which is great, which I think is what we need, but lights isn't going to bring people to the middle of Hamilton. For me, it's about looking at the whole thing. I think it's, again, coming back to buses, delivering people to the right place, having a place that's clean, and actually starting off with a bare piece of paper and say what's going to be best for the city of Hamilton in the middle, and not unnecessarily spending money like we have in the past and changing it 2 years later.
Thank you, Councillor Mead. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for an excellent report. I support the approach that you're taking in terms of actually just getting some action on the ground. I've been around this table over 6 years now, and transformation plans and strategies, they don't actually deliver real results in the end. And let's be frank, when it comes to the long-term plan, we're probably not going to be looking at putting $100 million into revamping streets, for example. So actually looking at affordable wins that we can get under our belt is a really smart approach. Let's get to the end of this term and be able to turn around and say, look what we've achieved. People have seen a noticeable difference in our central city. And I'm afraid we won't get there if we spend too much time trying to bite off the whole elephant in terms of going, what is our whole central city going to look like in the future, and starting from there. Actually, we do have some plans already in place. There's been a lot of thinking that's happened already. I think now is the time to get those wins underway, while also keeping a mind to the future. So I support this approach. I also think in terms of activation, events do matter, but also ongoing activation is important alongside of that, as well as making the environment a pleasant place to be. So it's looking at all of those prongs. In terms of ongoing activation, I would like to see us looking at how we actually use empty storefronts. That is going to require some investment in facilitation. It doesn't happen by itself, and we know that. We should also look at what our library fundage is doing. We are talking about businesses in Garden Place and how they should activate the area, but so far we've kept that pretty closed off. So what are we doing to open that up in terms of its future use? Thank you. I'll leave it there.
Councillor Thompson. Councillor Strange, yeah, I just realised you're not showing, I don't think you've been showing up there. I wasn't ignoring you. Apologies.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jeff. A couple of things I'd touch on. The first one is I believe the single biggest difference we can make to revitalise the CBD is having more people live in the CBD. Currently we have around 3,000 people live here. If we had 10,000 or 20,000 living in the CBD, it would be a vibrant place. People who live in the CBD, shop in the CBD, they tend to, well, they will often work in the CBD. So I'll be very interested in digging into what we could do to help support more people living in the CBD. The second one is in terms of the river. The large goal, as I see it, is continuing to open up the river. We've seen some good examples of that in the past, and it's important that we keep doing that. It's a unique asset that we have as a city, so we shouldn't lose sight of that long-term goal, our connection with the awa. The third point is around parking. We do need to have a good look at the parking. I understand there've been quite a few. There's quite a lot of confusion around the parking at the moment. People will come in and park, and they think they've got an hour free, but they don't register their car. They just go off, and then they get a ticket. That creates challenges. But I've been canvassing people around the CBD, and parking always comes up. And in terms of Garden Place, obviously Garden Place is a wonderful community asset for us. At the same time, we do have just across the road Victoria on the River, which is a similar open space, not quite as large, but it has that connection to the awa. And I think in an ideal world, that community space, which is Garden Place, would be adjacent to the river. So yeah, it's just a thought I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Mayor McIndoe.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Firstly, my apologies to my predecessor and friends behind me. I don't like having my back to you, but I was asked to move to this position. Deputy Mayor, you know how grateful I am to you for taking on this role. I really commend you for this first report that you presented. Like you, I'm frustrated that it's taken this long to have our first meeting, but I'm excited that we're underway, and absolutely agree with most of the comments that I've heard so far. I think we all know that making Vibrant Place safe, inviting, vibrant, welcoming is so important for our city. I agree that we need to shrink the CBD, have more people living in and close to it. The comments about buses going down Victoria Street, I personally agree with and hope that we can find a way to make that happen. Obviously, we need to find more angled parking, so much that has been good. I renew my absolute pledge to do everything I can to get 2 hours free parking reinstated. And it's not just for retailers and shoppers. I want to point out that there are many service providers, counsellors, therapists and others who work in the CBD who tell us regularly that their customers and their clients are detrimentally impacted by the current arrangements. We need to make things simpler. I hear the calls for finding other ways to recoup lost revenue, and I have some ideas on that as well. I think this is a very exciting time for our city. I'm so thrilled that the Pullman development is now well underway. I very much hope that Templeton will remain on track and deliver what it has promised to do. We've seen just in the last few weeks, with the opening of the BNZ Theatre, with the wonderful Homegrown Festival, and I know that's not in the CBD, but boy, it had a great impact for retailers and hospo providers in the CBD. The way that Garden Place can be lit up with events by like Children's Day, the Lantern Festival, etc. I absolutely agree with Councillor O'Leary that events in themselves don't achieve revitalisation, but they contribute. I echo her comments for a more strategic approach. That's a fairly breathless romp in 2 minutes through a lot of topics, but boy, we've got great work to do, great opportunities, and I look forward to being a part of it.
Thank you, Mayor McIndoe. Thank you. Are there any other speakers? All right, I'll just have a brief right of reply. Look, thank you all. I agree with chunks of what all of you said. For me, I don't think any particular place in the city works on its own. The answer to me is about linking them up. And we do have a plan. We do have a river plan. We do have a central city transformation plan. And I think a really important key is that I think we could do anything on Garden Place, but in isolation, these things to me don't work, which is why I agree completely with Councillor O'Leary in terms of activation. I was at Children's Day in Garden Place, and oh my God, you know, it just made me feel so happy to see Garden Place like that. And activation is key, and music is key, and a whole lot of things are key for Garden Place. I don't see a need for a huge change to Garden Place personally. To me, it is about linking assets, and I talk about the Pullman in the report. I talk about Worley and Ward Street and linking up Civic Square and linking up Garden Place. Ultimately, I see them linking to Union Square. I see them linking to Southern Victoria Street, and I think it's through those linkages, through working alongside developers at times, co-investing at times, that we get the biggest wins. Just from my 10 years here, it just feels that if you try and target things in isolation, you don't really get anywhere. It's about linking them up. But I absolutely agree about activation, but I also think let's not forget about the basics. Let's not forget about cleaning. Let's not forget about maintenance. Let's not forget about having high standards of garden beds and that sort of stuff, because I think there are chinks in our armour at the moment. You know, in the last 10 years, I think those budgets have dropped. So I think we need to get the basics right first. But I just want to reassure you, councillors, there is an overarching plan, the CCTP and the river plan, and I just want to reassure you that is in place, and perhaps that's something we need to revisit more in a drop-in session or a workshop. Thank you all. All right, I'm going to put the motion. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Now we have some time. We're going to move on to the General Manager's report.
Thank you, Chair Jeff. I'll briefly introduce this, and I do have both Charlotte and Juliana here to provide responses to the substantive item, which is around the easement between the BNZ and Novotel hotels. First item I'll just draw to your attention, we are working on a Central City dashboard to capture and bring together all the initiatives and the projects in the Central City. That will be visible at the next committee meeting. You'll appreciate that the Central City is actually made up of a combination of activities of all of council, and so tracking and capturing all of those bits of work is actually really important to make sure that we get the outcomes that we all desire in terms of an improved Central City. So many of you have talked about planting, transport, libraries, other projects. It's making sure those are all lined up and we're talking to each other, so we're actually working together as an organisation, not in disparate parts. So it might seem quite simple, but actually it's a really fundamental part around having joined up initiatives, getting the best bang for buck. The other thing that my team will be wanting to work closely with the subcommittee on is as we head towards a 2027 LTP, long-term plan, making sure that, again, the needs and the outcomes of the Central City are reflected in the work that the staff are bringing forward to elected members across the different budgets. We are certainly very aware that there are many gaps, as Chair Jeff has said. We need to bring that information to your attention through the long-term plan process, so you have a chance to understand if you want a higher level of service and particular outcomes, what does that look like, and what is the necessary budgets to support that? So that's some work that we'll be doing in the coming months as we head towards a long-term plan. And then finally, the report outlines some options around the easement and I guess the issues that have been raised with us by the property owners. And for those who attended the site visit this morning, outlines a couple of options and a preferred, a recommended pathway forward, subject to the agreement of this committee, that would allow us to go away and do some more detailed work with the two property owners, and then come back to the City Delivery Committee end of April with the final plan as to how we can, I guess, address those issues and provide an outcome that works for both the Central City and those property owners in terms of having a safe and welcoming space. So, with that, Chair Jeff, happy to take any questions from myself or with both Charlotte and Juliana, who are the experts, particularly around the easement matters.
Thank you, Blair. Nice summary. Councillor O'Leary, questions?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, staff, for the report. In the report, it says that we are sure that there's public perception. Now I've lost where it is. I'll go back to a different question until I can find that one. It was just in terms of the meetings that we've been having, and although the report only says in August 2025, the then Mayor's Office facilitated a meeting. This has been going on, this issue for BNZ and Tainui have been going on for a lot longer, hasn't it? In 2025?
Yes, it has been going on for a bit longer than that. I guess it came to ahead last year, and then there was a subsequent meeting with staff in December last year as well, and then we've also then obviously been meeting this year to get to this point.
Yeah, and why have we failed to not solve this for them?
That is a good question. I've only recently picked this up, so I don't know the backstory of all of it, so I don't have all the history to be able to answer that question fully. But I know now that we have a good plan going forward in terms of once we can have this decision today, we've had really constructive conversations with them. And I think especially after this morning's meeting again on site, we're kind of clear on the direction going forward from their concerns and where we can now act. And so we've got the right advice behind us now to know what changes we can make and how that can go about.
Okay.
Done.
And just two more questions if I can, Chair. Yeah, I found it on page 828, Roman numeral 2, it says the public perception that the land is owned and managed by council. Really? I mean, is there any public perception other than antisocial behaviour in this area? I mean, it's not a main thoroughfare. Is that a fair comment?
I think that's a fair comment, yes. I think it's more that because it's an open area similar to Garden Place and other, it can feel like it's an area that council should be taking responsibility for. And so there is that potential perception that it's not actually a privately owned land, which it actually is.
Okay, that sounds fair. I understand that the main concern in terms of our planning is that in the district plan there's reference to access to the river, but is it not correct that we now have VOTR, which provides for a huge access to the river, and that this is just a moot point now?
In terms of the district plan and everything you propose as part of Plan Change 12, we expect having more people living in the CBD. So if you expect to have more people, the more connection you have to the river, the better.
Yeah.
In saying that, this connection not necessarily need to be public. There are other options that it can be explored that still maintain the connection to the river without having the issues that we are having now. But from a district plan point of view, the more connections you have, the better.
And do we have any other easement over any other connection from the CBD, as we know the CBD area, to the river? Any other easement that council has over private property?
I'm not aware of.
No, okay. Thank you, Chair.
O'Leary. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. The key reason that this is being looked at is the antisocial behaviour. What we have learnt over the years is that you move people from one area and the problem doesn't disappear. It reappears in a different area. So what thinking has happened so far in regard to the consequential effect of this and what we can do around the deeper issue here alongside this proposed solution?
Look, it's a great question, Councillor, and I guess this comes back to how council works with the other agencies who have potentially greater tools at their hands than council does. I mean, council's primarily responsible for space, which is what this report is identifying. It's the work that we can do with those other agencies and the government to look at the wider, I guess, people issues around the homelessness and why people may want to congregate there, why people choose to do the certain things that they do in that space. It's a challenging issue. We obviously have our City Safe, and council could look at our City Safe involvement, but ultimately this is a multi-agency response, and you are quite correct that if this space is restricted, those people will choose to potentially relocate elsewhere. So there is a deeper issue there, which is beyond this topic, and it's certainly beyond council as well.
I understand, for example, council is currently facilitating conversations in regard to, now, being careful that antisocial behaviour and homelessness are two different things. But for example, we are facilitating conversations with providers in regards to solutions for homelessness in the central city. I hear that, well, frustration from providers and organisations that we're doing some facilitation, but we keep going around in circles because we don't put any money towards anything as an organisation. How does this, and then there are issues separate to that around antisocial behaviour, how does this subcommittee actually grip up some of that so that, or work with the community committee to do more than just talk about the issue?
Well, I think it's probably one for you, Jeff.
I guess this council would have to decide if it has a will to be putting funding into that. And I see it as wider than this subcommittee. I think the council would actually, as a whole, need to make a call on that. How much of this is council's role? How much of it is governmental role? So it's a good question you ask. I mean, I think everyone acknowledges it's a much wider, deeper issue.
Final question, thank you for your indulgence, Chair, is
No, God,
just
no problem.
it was raised by the parties to this conversation that there are issues around safety and SIPTED issues along the river path, particularly the obscuring of activities through the vegetation. Again, what thinking is happening in that space given the importance of people feeling safe using the river path?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we've been looking at now through the Maintenance and Improvement Fund as this issue's been raised, is how we can put some of the maintenance improvement funding into supporting responding to that issue in that area and another area along the river. But again, this is something that we need to be looking at for long-term planning because at the moment the funding isn't there to support that maintenance. It's a conversation that we need to have with this subcommittee around how do we put that forward and what does it look like for long-term plan.
Thank you. Yeah, I can also provide some sort of answer there. Mayor McIndoe and I had a meeting about safety with the stakeholders, including the guys who were there today, and they took us down to the river and pointed out the very trees that we saw today. I met with Maria Barry, who has assured me that they're going to do some very quick work to trim those trees, and out of that she is going to come up with almost as a pilot for what will be needed investment in the LTP on an annual basis, because as you know there used to be a program called Windows to the River where we would maintain all those trees that got cut along the way, and so she is saying, okay, well we will do some work very quickly to try and satisfy those concerns of safety and also the visual amenity, and that will tell us what we are going to have to spend every year if we are going to provide that. So she has been on that, and in fact I was surprised that some work hasn't been done already, because she was going to get a team in there pretty quickly.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Strange, I saw you this time.
If the easement is removed, what would be the cost savings per year in terms of our current maintenance?
So we will bring all of that information to the next report when it comes to city delivery.
Yeah.
We do have estimates, so it's probably around 10,000, but we want to get that really firmed up and get it clear for the next report. Because this came to us quite late in terms of preparing for this subcommittee, we didn't get all the information together, but that's why we want to bring a full report to the city delivery for that decision.
Thank you. Our next question, 3.C.1, notes that in terms of B1 above, should the easement be removed, the property owners of the land between BNZ and Novotel will need to agree that a viewable space through to the Waikato River will be retained, and any design of the area will enhance the public amenity of the connecting central city spaces. I'm curious in terms of how realistic that is, because my understanding would be that the benefit for the BNZ and Novotel, I guess particularly Novotel, would be to use that in a commercial way. For example, putting some tables out there, you know, benefiting the people who are staying there. Now that's great, having those guests to our city, having a nice experience, and we also obviously want that. But I guess my question is, do you think it's possible for them to be able to do that and also satisfy this clause?
I think we have a really good example here. It's a little bit more confined space, but we have Riverbank Lane towards Mr. Pickles.
Yes.
So people can still walk there, go to the river, but it's a private space, so they can close. So there are ways that it can be designed while you meet their expectations, while maintaining the connectivity to the river.
Okay, and how firm are we on that? That's up to us, I suppose, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. And the final one is, have you given some consideration to finding a win-win effectively with the owners? I guess in terms of, if this is, if they get commercial benefit from this, which is great, that's fine, that's a good thing. What sort of benefit can we get from it? I mean, like you referenced, reference the lane. But if it was potentially fully closed off, then I don't see the benefit we would get. But could there be some sort of, some sort of deal struck that's a win-win for both? For example, them working with us in terms of some of the tree maintenance down the river, or some other opportunities. Would you be open to exploring those if this resolution passes?
Yeah, so those are the conversations we need to now go and have following the decision that is made today.
Yep.
We will go and have those conversations to look into what could be done, and bring that to your City Delivery Committee on the 30th of April. But yeah, we need that direction from today, and we will go and do those conversations.
Thank you.
I think it's just worth noting that ultimately you have an open space, which the proposal here is to in some way close it or partially close it. So it is not going to be the same as what's there now.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing to consider here is that the reason it's come to this committee with a lot of interest is that the outcome for the central city is currently not positive. So there is behaviour and there's activities happening there which is also causing negative impact to the occupancy of the BNZ building and negative impact to the hotel, which is a key part of our central city. So I guess we have to trade off what is fair and reasonable and what is it we desire as a subcommittee in terms of the outcomes. And ultimately, I think one thing that we're hearing strongly is that those two property owners are seeing negative impacts on their business and we want them to be successful.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Chair Jeff. First thing, I believe that the homelessness is a community problem. It's all of our problems. And Tama Poltaka out at the Glenview Community Centre said there is a major amount of funding, and I believe we're not getting together with those people and discussing what is available. Moving people on to another spot is just going to expedite the problem and double it for someone else. So it's got to be dealt with at the base, not just moving them on, because it's more to this than just homelessness. It's cleanliness, it's a whole lot of other things that go on in there. But for me, we've got to address the problem at the base. We want to eventually have 10,000 people in the middle of Hamilton. I don't know when that's going to come, but there's a whole lot of factors behind that. But in the first area, for me on this, we've got to look at those people as a whole, as a community, and take ownership of it. I know it's not quite following what we're doing, and I see Amy looking at me like that, but it's all part of the whole. The question is, we need to address the fact that as a community, we need to look after them first to relieve the problem later on. Have we done that?
So I think there's a question there, which I think Chair Jeff has noted around how this subcommittee works with the community committee, who has a focus on community issues such as that. So it's just how that committee can support the subcommittee in that area.
Councillor O'Leary.
Sorry, Chair, thank you so much for indulging me. I just have two more questions. So it's private property. They've obviously agreed when we sold the BNZ back to them to the easement. So should the easement be removed today, why do the property owners need to agree that there's still a viewable space? Is that something in the district plan?
Yeah, it's not in the district plan. It's about us taking the step to remove the easement, I guess, with a set of conditions around. We will do that if these things are going to be met.
So, and that's about trimming trees for a view. And if there's no easement, there's no public access, there's no public view, so who's the view for?
So it's about the view, I guess, from Victoria Street through to see the trees and the connection through. So it's about not wanting just to see a big concrete wall go there. It's about making sure that it still is a nice public amenity. We can view through to the trees on the other side.
Okay, I understand now. Have they indicated they would build a big concrete wall?
No.
Okay.
No.
And then, thank you for clarifying that. And then my last question, why do staff need to work with landowners if the easement is removed, given it's private property?
To get to the point around agreeing what that design would look like.
And yet they've not indicated there's going to be a big grey Russian concrete wall?
No, they've not. But
Okay.
the property owners, they talk to us about that. They would like to work with us to make sure
it's
that
their
it delivers.
property, so obviously they would enhance it. Okay, thank you very much, Chair.
Good, thanks, Councillor.
I guess just to clarify, Councillor, we have no budget to do any physical works in that area. So I guess part of that is also understanding from the property owners, if we were to remove the easement, what they will be doing and what they would fund. And that would, yes, it is. But an easement gives us rights at the moment.
Yeah, no, I understand. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Thompson.
Would you be open to, given Vanessa was going to present at 10:30, to leaving this item on the table until after morning tea, which would give an opportunity just to consider whether there's another noting that might help to reflect some of the questions and concerns?
Because I'd be interested in what you've got in mind, because the recommendations are actually quite open-ended in that they allow for both a detailed look at full permanent closure, but also for information to come back on temporary closure. What could be added? I'd be interested in what could be added to that.
So I was interested in Jamie's comments around whether there is a win-win situation in terms of working together on surrounding issues. He raised the idea of financial contribution towards trimming of trees, for example. So I would like to see that captured, and I'd also like to see captured some sort of noting around the link here to the issues that maybe I'd be canvassed through the community committee. I'm not sure how to appropriately do that, but that it's clear that there will be further conversation in regard to those broader antisocial issues.
Yeah, I don't think that's complicated. I think there's a negotiation going to take place, and I think we can certainly note that first one in terms of being part of the negotiation, that first item. And to me, I'm very happy to note the second one as well, that we make reference to the community committee. I don't think, if that's what you've got in mind, I'm absolutely happy for both of those. Any problem, governance?
I'm just trying to figure out how to establish a way that it's still within the terms of reference.
Right.
So it's more, I think we can gather the information that has been raised and we can take it away as staff, but formalising it within this committee's scope is a little bit more difficult, and it's one of the reasons for the wording of the
Yeah.
actual motion as well.
Motion based on the staff recommendation when you're ready, but might help to
I've-
get something on the table, so.
I've got a message from Councillor Anna that we've got a report coming to one of the upcoming meetings. So,
Okay.
sorry, you go.
Councillor, you go for it, Councillor.
Sorry,
O'Leary.
thanks, Chair.
I'm going to get Councillor O'Leary to move this, which is why she's...
Yeah, so I was going to be moving staff recommendation, but only A and B, and then Roman numeral 1 to remove the easement, and then Roman numeral 2, which is just reporting back with the financial information, which is just about cost savings from that I think Councillor Strange raised around maintenance. Nothing else.
Okay, that...
So not the high-level contextual information on an option 2, and I don't, I'm not, unless there's, I don't agree with C, Roman numeral 1, around that we need to agree with viewable space, or, and I can discuss that in debate, or the next bit around preparing information on both options. I think, yeah, just the easement, done and dusted.
And we're still noting the points that Councillor Thompson raised?
Which were...
Those matters are already captured within the
Okay.
minutes itself. It's a little bit outside of some of the scope, so that's where I'm just trying to pull everything in together.
Okay. Is everyone clear on what Councillor O'Leary's suggesting?
Yes, so I'm proposing that we simply remove the easement and then the savings, which I'm sure there will be, on the fountain will be reported back to the committee. And that's it. So I'm not proposing that council staff get involved in what design. I think that it's private property, BNZ and Tainui, we're not going to do anything terrible, that we just back off, and it's private property. We remove the easement and move on with things and allow them to move on with things. I believe that they'll do the right thing.
But then the question also becomes, obviously they will get, it'd be great for them to get some financial benefit, like the opportunity for us to do a little bit, to do some sort of win-win, find a win-win situation. For example,
Well, I
with
think
the
that
trees, I just don't want to rule out any...
That could probably happen just off, surely we don't have to formalise everything with the mayor, in conversation with the Mayor's office with them. I know that the Mayor's Chief of Staff has been knee-deep, donkey-deep in this issue on behalf of the Mayor for quite some time, so surely we can just have discussions with them. As I said, they're not going to do anything ugly, are they?
Yeah. I just think in terms of the trees, particularly those taller trees, they want them lowered anyway.
Well, we can do that, right?
And so I'm just thinking there's a benefit to us here as well, potentially.
A negotiation take place, so everything's on the table.
Okay.
Yeah, so, look, I second Councillor O'Leary's motion. I feel it's fairly clear steer that we got this morning from the stakeholders about what was needed. So I'd second that. So unless there's any queries, we'll go to debate.
I'll put up the original recommendation as an amendment.
As an amendment, okay. Councillor
With the
Thompson,
seconder,
have you got a seconder for
put
that,
that on the
Councillor?
table. If everyone's... No?
Just to understand that, that's obviously, having staff do that work, Sarah.
Plus high-level option 2 coming back to us for another decision.
For another decision, so there's a time factor.
Right, there's no seconders.
No seconders? All right, so that fails for one of the seconders, so we just have the motion on the table. Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I haven't had a lot to do with this other than listening with frustration on the sidelines. The issue of antisocial behaviour in the area, which has made it unsafe, has gone on for far too long. It's not our property, it's private property. As I see it, the easement simply needs to be withdrawn and we need to leave them to it. We have much bigger fish to fry than this item that's been dragging on, causing major issues, not only for Waikato or Tainui, the hotel there and BNZ, but also HCBA have been to us countless times. BNZ and Tainui, as we've heard from staff, they're not going to do anything terrible. They're not going to do a poor job. They have millions of dollars worth of investment in those properties. They are not going to do a poor job. They're going to do something nice, something great. We don't need public access. We've got VOTR, and I am very, very comfortable with the many ways that the people can access the river now. We don't need to instruct staff to write a plan to find out how many trees are going to be cut and what the view is going to look like. We need to be pragmatic. We have bigger fish to fry. So I'm looking forward to the informal discussions that I'm sure our fantastic Parks and Recs team will have with them about, yes, we can trim that tree for you, or no, we can't, without any formalisation of plans and further delay, because this has been delay upon delay upon delay and frustration for BNZ, for BNZ, for Tainui, for HCBA, and for people using Victoria Street and not wanting to go into this space. It's not like it's a high activation space anyway. So thank you for the Chair for the opportunity to put this on the table for us to finally get some resolve here and for allowing me to move it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor O'Leary. Mayor McIndoe.
And I strongly echo the comments that Councillor O'Leary has just made. I might have had a different view 10 or 15 years ago before the significant transformation of Victoria Street and the views of the river. But because bizarrely, early developers in the city built the entire Victoria Street with the backs of office buildings to the river. Goodness knows what they were thinking with that magnificent taonga that runs right through the city. But we have seen major transformation, and I think the key point is that we now have wonderful open spaces looking down onto the river. There are several different areas that you can access the river safely and attractively. The problem we have with the area from the easement is that we know from the feedback we get from particularly Novotel and the BNZ, but others in the area, and the Deputy Mayor mentioned the meeting he and I attended recently, that that is an area that is now increasingly undesirable and unsafe. And right in the heart of our CBD, we've got to ensure we do better than that. We have a huge number of tourists staying in the Novotel every year, and yet we have Novotel management telling them, don't go out that way, don't try to get down to the river path, it's not safe. That's a terrible message, and we have to respond. We have to respond quickly and make sure that that is not the case. I would make the point that it is central government primarily that is needing to drive this, but we are doing what we can, exploring what we can with other agencies and with the police. In fact, I met with the area commander and superintendent just yesterday and discussed this issue in my office to find the best space for Hamilton City Council to operate with them, alongside them, to find some solutions to these incredibly difficult problems. Homelessness cannot be the work of this particular subcommittee, important as the issue is, and determined as we all are to try to find the right solutions. Nobody wants to be uncaring, particularly to those who are vulnerable in our community, but we have to get the balance right, and it isn't right at the moment.
Thank you, Mayor McIndoe. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I will support. So this is going to the City Delivery Committee with further recommendations. So I will support this decision today. What I feel quite uncomfortable about is removing any ability, removing the noting there that we will work with the landowners around the design. To be absolutely frank, there are great things that commercial property owners have done in terms of design within the CBD. There are also examples of really terrible uses of public space, and I think it's really important that, particularly in such a central area, that where they close this off, that we actually get something that's attractive and that enhances the space and doesn't just end up I guess, further detracting from it. So I don't feel completely comfortable with removing that part of this, and I would like to see further information on what they potentially would be proposing before we 100% sign this off. We are ultimately giving away public rights to access. We're not giving away nothing here. We are giving away public rights to access through this area, and I think we should actually be asking at the very least in return that we see what this is going to look like and how it's going to contribute to the overall public space in this area. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Strange, you go first, sir.
Yeah, look, I agree with what others have said. I have confidence in the work that the owners will do in that space. They do both have a track record of delivering, quality work. I particularly reference Tainui in that. I'd like to broaden it out as well, similar to what Councillor Thompson was saying, in terms of the Waikato River, the awa, and our access and our view into the awa. Currently, we can't see the awa from many windows, and my understanding is that in 2011, that funding for tree maintenance in that area was cut. I would like to see some funding returned for that. If that funding can be in partnership with others, that is obviously a good outcome for our city. So I encourage staff to have conversations with the landowners, in this case, around their willingness and their interest in making a donation to the ongoing tree maintenance in that area, and it will have benefit to them too, because I've heard from the owners of the Novotel that they want they want their guests to be able to see the river. At the moment, they can't. I'd personally like to see some of those really large trees, some of them taken out and replaced with natives that grow to a level of maybe 6 metres. So I look forward to hearing back from staff around. I look forward to seeing how those discussions go in terms of that partnership. I'd be very disappointed if the owners don't contribute something towards that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Thank you all. I've got you noted. I'll just have a little plug and then you're next. Look, to be honest, I think this is something we should have done 10 years ago. I think it is the right thing to do. I support bringing this back to city delivery with the necessary information and also the cost savings that we can make. Speaking to the stakeholders as we did this morning, it was a very clear message. They've been very patient, and there's a number of compelling reasons why I think this is the right decision. The antisocial behaviour has been going on a long time. We had to drain the fountain last year. 2-3 weeks ago, there were multiple police cars there. It happens a lot. It is a real problem, and this is outside our premier hotel, where people are either in the restaurant or doing courses there, looking out to this sort of behaviour, and it's just not on. I'm sorry. It's not actually a particularly attractive easement at all, as you would have seen today, and it's actually pretty dangerous, not just for the dangers, safety dangers down by the river, but for the traffic as well. You're walking straight into a car park. And the businesses concerned have put multiple millions of dollars into the city, and they're going to do a good job there because it's in their interests too. They want a great space. And we are going to save some money from maintaining this eyesore in this difficult area. So I'm 100% behind this. It's the right decision. Thank you. Councillor Huata.
Oh, kia ora, thank you for letting me be here and have a say. So just something for our report writers, and something that I always mention is that when we're looking at our key strategies, He Pau Manawa Ora, for instance, that there are actual connects back to the 4 pillars history by giving this mana back to Waikato Tainui Group Holdings, through the removal of the easement, you give them the ability to be able to tell these stories in history. So we're honouring Pillar 1. Pillar 2, unity by working together. That's an obvious one. Pillar 3, prosperity. Also, we're looking about revitalising our CBD and what that will do for us in that space. So there is a connect there as well, and for the restoration for obvious reasons. So just think about those things and how Paumana Order can actually link back to what we do and everything that we do. And I will keep saying that. In terms of giving the ability back to the owners, Tainui Group Holdings, Waikato Tainui and BNZ, in no way do I think council should be having a say in what they do in their space. In fact, they could tell us what's a good thing to do. You only need to look at the frontage of the Novotel, the ACC building, all the features in Te Awa. They are actually the experts in their own space. So that's what I would be encouraging. Kia ora.
All right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, say aye.
Sorry, can I exercise my right of reply?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor O'Leary.
That's okay, thank you so much. Just, I will do my right of reply correctly, which is, for new members who don't know, you have to respond to the debate. So I'm going to directly respond to some of the points made in the debate. In terms of Councillor Thompson making the comment around we're giving away people's right to use the space, we're not, because people aren't using the space because they feel that it's unsafe. Councillor Strange made a comment around possibly the idea of the hotel contributing, and I think that's a long bow to draw in terms of contributing for a view to the river, because an awful lot of businesses and residents live along the river, and I'm sure we've had over the years requests from residents and businesses to trim a tree for its health purposes. That's also improved the views. And lastly, I absolutely tautoko the non-member Councillor Hawata's comments and completely agree with her. This is around trusting the BNZ. This is around trusting Tainui. They are partners in the city. They are big commercial holders, and Tainui, of course, being the largest landowner in the city with the strongest connection to the awa. They are not going to disrespect that space. And to my colleagues, with respect, this is exactly why issues like this drag on and cost staff money and time. It's private property. We have safe, new, beautiful access to the awa. We don't need this one. Let's move on. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor O'Leary. All right, we'll put it to the vote. Those in favour, say aye. Aye. Those against?
Carried unanimously.
Thank you all. Now, look, I apologise for this. We're a little bit late, Vanessa, but I didn't expect that one to take so long. My mistake. Let's bring you on now, and after that, we'll have a cup of tea or coffee. Oh, you're on behalf of the okay. I didn't think you looked like Vanessa.
Just in case.
It was the beard that gave it away.
Good morning, councillors, Deputy Mayor Taylor and Mayor McIndoe. So I'd just like to welcome Vanessa Williams. She's the General Manager of Hamilton Central Business Association. She also has with her today Chelsea Fleetwood, who is from PKF Accountants and also the Board Chair at HCBA. So just for new councillors, and just in case there's not an awareness around that, the HCBA plays an important role in the activation and promotion of the Central City, and their presence here reflects the close working relationship we have with them and the business community. So with no further ado, I'll hand it over to Vanessa and Chelsea. Thank you.
Good morning, councillors. Thank you for having us along today. I'm just going to say a couple of words, and then I'm going to hand over to our board chair, Chelsea, to say a couple of words just about the Central City, their business, and why they're a part of, or why Chelsea's chosen to be a part of the Hamilton Central Business Association. So just in terms of, you've had my report, I also provided, I'm just going to hold up a piece of paper, but I also provided an economic snapshot page that we have been producing at HCBA for about the last 18 months. So every 6 months we're updating just an economic snapshot of what's happening within the central city, predominantly to inform new businesses coming into town, but also people who are wanting to get, particularly in the business community, wanting to have an understanding of what's happening. So it has been provided in the report, but the snapshot ending to December 2025 shows that we have a good number of developments still underway, and obviously this provides a high level of confidence that investment is happening in the central city. Although none completed in that 6 months, it is great that we now know that the BNZ Theatre is open. We have a lot of new hospitality within that space that's also open. And in that 6 months, we also had the news that the Ferry Bank development is going to be underway, which we think will be a great addition down on the river path. You can also see from the snapshot that CBD spending is holding steady. I say holding steady, but actually when adjusted for inflation is probably a little below what we would like. But it has been a pretty tough time out there for businesses, so the economic conditions, the fact that we are somewhat holding steady is pretty good for town. We have vacancy rates that we know are still sitting reasonably high, but we have some good news with our retail vacancy rates tracking downward, so that is good news. Comparatively within a New Zealand landscape, our vacancy rates again are not looking too bad, and as I said, we have a number of developments underway. We have been able to see from our office vacancy surveys that have been conducted that there is definitely a, as they call it, a flight to fancy or a flight to quality, in that higher quality developments are being preferred in terms of businesses tenanting properties around town, so that is good for us. We do still have, unfortunately, pedestrian counts that don't look particularly good, as can be seen by the pedestrian volumes through town comparative over the last few years. We do believe we're still impacted quite significantly from work from home, that businesses, some businesses, particularly large government businesses, do have implemented. So that does affect pedestrian counts around the town. But overall, the 6 months up till December, yes, challenging times coming off the economic situation at the moment, but we're able to hold ourselves in there. We're hoping to see some reprieve in 2026, but we do know that expenses, particularly for small businesses, are quite daunting at the moment. Before I hand over to Chelsea, I would also like to say further to the discussion that was being held around the easement. We are certainly incredibly supportive of seeing that easement and that BNZ alleyway removed, so that the property can be developed by the two property owners there, Tainui and BNZ, Novotel, that it can be really made into a great space that could be chosen to be used by people when it's opened up, or but it allows the businesses themselves to be able to manage the property and who uses it, so we certainly endorse that easement being removed. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Chelsea now.
Oh, great. Good morning, councillors. Thank you so much for having me this morning. It's quite exciting. I've never been in this chamber before. My name is Chelsea. I'm a business advisory manager at PKF Hamilton, so we're an accounting firm in the CBD. I've been on the Hamilton Central Business Exec for 3.5 years and moved into the role of chair late last year. I'm born and raised in the Waikato, and so I feel a real affinity to our region, and I've also always worked centrally. I started my career at BDO. We're an accounting firm right in the city. I've worked at Northern Districts on the City Fringe, the cricket organisation. My husband and I started a gym, Body Fit Training, down near the Waikato Stadium, and 3 years ago moved back to PKF Hamilton, again, north end of Victoria Street, in my accounting role. Through these roles, I've seen firsthand some of the amazing opportunities, but also the challenges that we face in the CBD. In my role at PKF, I work with businesses large and small across the Waikato region, but also looking after many businesses in our central city. And because of that, I get to see and share in the sentiment that they share and the health of their businesses, how the businesses are performing. The central city for us is where our team come every day. It's where, like I said, some of our clients operate. It's where we as professionals collaborate with other professionals. And it's also a place that we socialise, we go to events, and it's a place that we feel a real sense of belonging. The central city needs to be vibrant. So I think it really needs to be welcoming. It needs to be somewhere that we're really proud to operate. And we certainly as PKF are proud to operate here. And I think it's important that everybody that's here shares in that. And I think that's where the Hamilton Central Business Association plays such an important role in supporting that vibrancy and that sense of belonging. We are the collective voice for our central city businesses. We are in the thick of it. We are sharing in those same challenges and the same wins as other business owners. Vanessa and Vicky truly do a remarkable job getting out and about, and the volume of work they deliver, I think, is phenomenal. Getting out and walking the streets, getting to know our businesses, advocating for their issues, sharing feedback up, collaborating with council, all very, very important things. You're dynamic, fast moving, and I think that's really special. The boots on the ground type approach, in my opinion, is unbeatable. It's the best way to build trust and to really hear things from the coalface. Personally, I really value being part of the Hamilton Central Business Committee. It brings together, so on our board we've got a real diverse range of business owners, all sharing different experiences with lots of different perspectives to share. And that's really important in terms of solving challenges and sharing information, collaborating with both council, business community and ourselves. I think that's really special. I personally am very passionate about making sure our city feels safe. And I think if we can leverage technologies that are available to us to support in that would be huge. So that's public safety element. I think if we can nail that, we will naturally alleviate many other challenges that our city is facing. And I know it's not an easy fix. I'm a firm believer also that when you're surrounded by good people, life is genuinely better. So connecting and collaborating with like-minded people and bringing businesses together is very important to me also. As chair, over the last sort of 6 months, my focus has been on supporting Vanessa and Vicky to execute in their day-to-day, and it's also, I've been, demanding or expecting those on our board to contribute and deliver as well, and then also strengthening relationships between all of the stakeholders involved has been a focus for me. It's no secret I am a really huge ambassador. I think what's really cool for me is been sharing in so many conversations more recently with others who are genuinely proud to live here, to work here, to raise families here. I think that sentiment is growing, and so that gives me energy and so much, vibrancy and hope, and I think the future of our city is really bright. So there's a few things that naturally there's always going to be challenges along the way, but I think, I'm excited to see us continue to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, both of you. Councillor Strange.
Thank you. Thanks for your support, for your report. In terms of parking, can you please give us your feedback on how the parking is currently, how well it's currently working, and also any ideas you have in that area?
So parking continues to be probably the number one issue that is highlighted to us in the central city. Parking, and safety, definitely on the par. There's just confusion, and I think we've gone out a few times with a few different changes around the parking. We've got implementation of blue, green and yellow sections. Again, we've got a free parking offering, but there's a registration element required, there's a payment, there's an app, there's a quick scan option, there's some coins in some of them. It's a lot. People just want very, very simple rules when it comes to parking. Can they park there? Can't they park there? And certainly around the discussion around the 2 hours free parking, absolutely, if it can go out as a simple and easy 2 hours free, it will be another barrier that's reduced from entering the city, and it will benefit multiple businesses.
Thank you. And your second question? That's right. Yeah, my second question is in terms of the building owners, basically those who own buildings in the CBD. And what have you observed around them improving their buildings, particularly paint, other areas like that? And I guess linked to that, what sort of potential do you see for encouragement and incentives for landlords to improve their buildings?
Sure. So obviously we do have some upgrades happening, and we have some of them detailed in the snapshot that I provided, but there does need to be the recognition that times are tough out there, really tough. And I know that certainly you speak to, whether it's a business owner or a property owner, on multiple occasions, it has highlighted the costs that are being faced out there. So I get that the ideal would be to have everyone painting, and believe you me, I would want to see more of that. But we also have to recognise that things are pretty tough out there. I know it was highlighted in an article quite recently about the south end of town in particular, now that it's had a few upgrades. But also I think that recognition needs to be that yes, there's been a few upgrades, but actually they were over 5 years of building works that were happening in the area that made it quite difficult to operate a business. So these things do take time. I think council certainly needs to be showing to be leading the way in those upgrades. I know things like the Celebrating Age Centre. I mean, that's a blot that's been there for a long time. That is still, I understand, shortly to be started. I think in terms of trying to speed that momentum up, council can be leading the way in those upgrades, and absolutely slowly the rest will come along. But it's certainly not a quick fix at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor O'Leary.
That, Vanessa, I know that over the years you've tried several times, and predecessors before you, to somehow you get the paint sponsorship and you've offered to paint for free. Can you just, there's never been a big uptake on that, even though it's been free. Can you just explain to the committee why?
So multiple reasons around who owns the property and whether they're local or whether they're out of town or whether they're in fact out of the country. There's also quite a bit of traffic management that will come into having buildings painted. Again, it's another expense. Traffic management costs, even for changing signage, can be enormously prohibitive within the central city. So, you know, in talking around some of those potential incentives that could be looked at, there could be incentives around actually that regulatory processes that cost a lot of money for businesses.
Thank you.
Just a thought.
Councillor Mead.
Chair Jeff, just a couple of questions. Hey, great report. I think it's awesome. The one thing I do found since I've come to council, in some cases we put percentages, in some cases we put numbers. The likes of vacancies and the amount of pedestrians we do as a percentage. For me, I'd love to know how many people, because that helps me help decisions.
Sure.
And it's the same with visitors from Canterbury. We've got 71,000 people flying into Hamilton, but then we put a percentage of 9%. And it'd be nice for me as a councillor to say, what are the numbers that we're generating that are coming here, so we can make better decisions about numbers of people rather than just a percentage, because a percentage could be 2.
Yep, no problem.
But no, cool report, thank you.
Thanks.
Thompson.
Thank you, Vanessa and Chelsea, for the report, and wonderful to meet you, Chelsea. I was just following on from the question around tidying up buildings. What potential innovative solutions could there be around, for example, facilitating traffic management for everyone to just clean their buildings? As an example, I had one shop owner brought up an idea that, you know, we could actually do traffic management for a street, that everyone who is able to could actually clean their building all at once, as an And what else could we do to just collectively work together to get even windows of storefronts clean that doesn't rely on property owners, simply the operators of the businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually looking at some of those innovative ways to get a bit of a clean-up happening would be great, and certainly they could be explored more. They're always going to have a cost, so somebody has to foot that bill. In saying that, you know, maybe that is something that, you know, some of those solutions can be looked at that we could contribute to. I mean, you know, would love to see that clean-up really happen. And again, I've got to also say though, footpaths, things like furniture, rubbish bins, all of those sorts of things. If property owners were to do their part, then I think council needs to also be looking at their part. And we do have some incredibly old footpaths and things like that, that actually if we wanted to pick areas to knock off, it would be great if we could look at renewals budgets or things like that that could potentially address those things as well.
You're aware of the renewals plan for the footpaths along Alexandra Street and
Yes.
Collingwood? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Further questions? All right. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
All right, councillors, on page 13 there is a recommendation for us to receive the report. I'm happy to move. Do I have a seconder? Mayor McIndoe. I'll just speak very briefly. Thank you, Vanessa and Chelsea, and welcome, Chelsea. Nice to meet you, and I appreciate the energy that you obviously are bringing. You guys do a great job and a tough job at times. Let's be honest. It's not always easy, but I find invaluable the fact that we're able to go to you and you're the voice of the Central City businesses. It just makes our job so much easier. And you know, the points you make about safety and parking are really high on our radar as well, rest assured. Look, as far as I'm concerned, I want this subcommittee to work closer with HCBA than it ever has before, you know, so that you're in absolutely no doubt that the Central City is a huge priority for us. So I'm really looking forward to that relationship over the coming couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And look, I don't think we need to debate, but I do just want to take this opportunity, particularly as the seconder of the motion, to echo everything you've just said, to thank members who have spoken for the various questions and comments that have accompanied those questions. But in particular, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, sorry about the croaky voice, Vanessa in particular, but also Chelsea. I love your work, and we are so fortunate to have people such as yourselves leading an important organisation in our central city. You're always positive, you're always constructive, even when you disagree with what we're doing. You manage to do it in a way that doesn't make us feel as if we're getting things too badly wrong. But you've got a whole lot of great solutions, and I really admire the way that you work in the community with your Central Business Awards and that type of thing to ensure that our CBD retailers and hospo providers and service providers, etc., all know that they've got a voice, that they've got a strong advocate. So as I say, there is no debate. It's just a huge thank you to you. Please keep it up. You're doing a great job for us.
Thank you, Mayor McIndoe. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks again, Vanessa and Chelsea. Really appreciate the energy and enthusiasm that you bring to this role, and look forward to working with you both. I do want to just note the good work that HCBA does in terms of the activation fund, but also take the opportunity to highlight $100,000. It has not changed over many, many years in terms of the amount there, and costs always go up. So if we're serious about activation, we do need to increase the amount of funding available. And within the report, it noted that spending in the Central City had actually gone up compared to the base and chart ball for the first quarter since 2018. in 24, but said this may be due to activities and events held in and around Hamilton CBD over the summer, making it more attractive compared to the base and Chartwell. I just thought there was an interesting note there. Events and activities really do matter. On a personal note, I loved walking through the central city when there were various events happening, including the skateboarding. You'll never see me on a skateboard in my life. But the music and the activity and the kids around brought a sense of real energy and life to the place. So I strongly encourage us to consider, even in this annual plan, and I look that way, if we want immediate results where we can demonstrate to residents that changes are happening, increased activation would make a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you to Councillor Thompson. Any further speakers? No? All right. So I will put the motion that the Central City Revitalisation Subcommittee receive the report. Those in favour? Aye. Those against?
Carried unanimously.
Now, folks, we're about to break for a quarter of an hour's coffee break, but before we do, the item 8, Councillor Central City Transformation Delivery, Councillor Thompson raised the point of we were talking about the area north of London Street and how we how we promote residential ground floor. Juliana has to go to a meeting very shortly, so we just thought we'd just get her to update that particular point, Councillor Thompson, and then we'll break.
So just in terms of residential apartments on ground floor in the central city, so there are some parts in the district plan that are indicated that we do want to have activation. But if you consider the central city, there are minor areas. On these areas, apartments are non-compliant activity under the district plan. Everything else, it's going to be either permitted, which is the majority of the central city, which is, apart from a really small part of London Street at the corner with Victoria Street, almost everything else at London Street is permitted activity to have apartments at ground floor. And we have some secondary activations areas where it's restricted discretionary. But apart from, I think it's measured around Victoria Street, where it's no compliant. Everywhere else, we can have apartments, residential apartments on ground floor here in the central city.
Thank you, Juliana. So just for clarification, it was along Victoria Street, which I had concerns that the northern part of Victoria Street requires activated frontages. So are you saying that other than that, then that northern area, the residential is permitted, but Victoria, so what's the requirement for Victoria Street North?
I need to check exactly the extent that it goes to the north of Victoria Street.
Yeah.
This part around the CBD, more the central part, is where we require activation. On Victoria Street, specifically towards the north, I need to check.
Yeah.
You know, but leaving Victoria Street, almost everywhere else is permitted activity.
Okay, yeah.
So the likes of Rostreva Street, Harwood Street, London Street, parts of London Street, all those northern areas, as Juliana said, they are unrestricted.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was from memory, there was a section of Victoria Street that still had those requirements around active frontages, which went well beyond London Street, where I think we've generally said that's kind of the cut-off zone for retail. So I was interested in that aspect of it, what would it actually require to change that? What in reality would it be worth it? And with government changes coming into the RMA, would that override our current zoning requirements anyway? So are we wasting our time? So those are the kinds of questions I was just interested in around where we do have restrictions, where the last time I looked at it, I thought they went too far.
At this stage, in terms of the reforms, we don't have enough information to know how much is actually going to affect us or not. So at this stage, we don't know.
Yeah.
As I told you, there are some restrictions in terms of residential apartments on ground floor level in some parts of Victoria Street. I just, on the top of my head, I don't remember how far I go towards the north.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, let's have a break for 15 minutes. All right, all, we'll reconvene. We are on page 37, item 8, Central City Transformation Delivery. And staff will do a short presentation, yeah? Take it away.
Great, thank you. So good morning, and apologies before I didn't introduce myself for those who I haven't met before. I'm Charlotte Kapner, I'm the Sustainable Communities Unit Director, so overseeing the Central City area of work. So what we wanted to provide in this first report was really an update to inform the subcommittee of all the investment and the current plans that we have for the Central City to really help the subcommittee in terms of making decisions on the things we need to do now, but also with the long-term plan and what's coming up and decisions that need to be made. So we have lots of aspects to this report, and we have a range of staff here who will be able to answer your questions on the different components. So as we go through with questions, we'll just ask additional staff to come and be able to give you the most up-to-date information. So happy to take questions.
Do we have questions, folks? You'll be aware that of the sort of recommendations are on page 37, plus there will be an extra one that I've suggested overnight. No, you mailed it to you last night.
8:27 last night.
Yeah. It was just in relation to references to Anglesey Street and its public transport priority in future, and proposal, well, comments that Tristram Street would become a primary freight and general traffic route in the city. So there's some work going on at the moment, and I'm keen for the subcommittee to get an update on that and some visibility on it. And it's referenced.
This is getting clarity on work already done, not doing new work.
Yeah. It's clarity on work that's currently taking place. It will just be an update. Yeah. But other than that, we don't seem to have any questions on the... Oh, I don't? Councillor... Oh, sorry, Councillor O'Leary.
I just have one. Just in terms of the motion and the option 2, talking about the Central City Guardian role. So can you just explain exactly what that is? Because in my brain, Guardian feels like it's a sort of a city safe type ambassador walking around role, but this is talking about cleaning and maintenance and delivery of that kind of stuff. Can you just...
Thank you. Tanya will come and take the floor.
Morena tātou. Yeah, that's 20 steps today. So that's probably more of a descriptor for the report, Councillor O'Leary. It is about, you may recall some years ago we did have a level of service where we had staff in the vicinity of the CBD who did minor cleaning, minor maintenance outside our normal levels of service. So it's about bringing back a trial to have a similar role like that again.
So it's like an on-the-ground caretaker type role.
Yes.
And is the intention that staff will... So the trial will go for 12 months?
Yes.
And is that... Would it be better for that at some point in that trial, or maybe it's going to happen anyway, given we will have a draft LTP by November? We would want to, if it's successful, and we've only got, 7 or 8 months then, to include that proposal in the LTP?
Yes, that's the intent.
It doesn't have to wait till the end of a 12-month trial. If it's successful, staff will report back to this committee and we can formulate a
we won't have a
proposal.
full year's data set, obviously, if we go to LTP, but we should have enough of an indication that there have been improvements due to this role.
And how will we measure that?
So we will use a lot of the feedback through, as we heard this morning with Vanessa from HCBA saying some of the minor issues around cleaning and rubbish bins, etc. So there would be feedback from Vanessa, and then we would look to put in an evaluation as part of that role.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. Tanya, sorry, in terms of the role, are we better to call it a caretaker role or something? Because there was confusion around guardian and that it could be seen as being broader in terms of safety and other things as well.
Yes, absolutely. We haven't landed on a position title. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that role, would that person be responsible for, say, for example, there's, I had to work to get dead trees removed in Bryce Street and for quite a few months waiting to get that to happen. Would someone like that pick up things that are maybe outside of what they can do, but actually go, oh, there's broken grading, there's, the plants, half the plants that we planted are dead in Hood Street, can you please?
Yes.
Would they organise all those things?
Yes, so we already have a number of eyes in the CBD through the various roles that our staff play. This role, the intent of that is to have, I guess, someone who's got entire ownership of the CBD. So things like those trees that are dead, it's not fixing them themselves. That's not the intent of the role, but it's working along with our Parks team and Maria's team to make sure that we're getting a resolution faster.
Yeah. Proactively picking up things that need fixing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all on that issue. Chair, how do we, in terms of, I mentioned activation in the last item, but in terms of getting some recommendations to us around what, if we were to more substantially improve our activation funding, what would be recommended in terms of how that's used, and how could we get to having that conversation and have that information come back to us?
So it's not about sourcing more activation funding, it's how you would use more activation funding if it came?
Yes, so elected members could then know what they would be funding. If they were to increase funding for activation, the idea would be to, instead of arguing for a very vague thing over here that we need to fund, my question is how could we actually determine what would be really effective in terms of activation and what some options are for funding that. So you might have gold, silver, bronze option in front of us, but something tangible for elected members to properly consider.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of...
And that's outside of what you've got here, the 50,000. That's, I'm not questioning that, but it's if we wanted to take a step up our role in activation.
So is it a case of saying, okay, we want to come back to a future meeting with what would more activation look like? What?
Yes.
For instance, would it be directed towards HCBA, or would we get possibly our community development people? Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Would it go towards how much would we recommend towards events versus permanent kind of, I don't know, say installation, well, not semi-permanent installations, or getting some shop fronts actually filled while they're waiting for a new tenant. There's a whole range of things.
And you're talking about in the short term, because if we're looking at getting some more activation money.
I'm just asking, it may be that it has to be an LTP funded thing, but my question is how do we get to the point of having a clear idea of what activation would look like and what would be the most effective actions we could take before then having the conversation to help inform a conversation about funding activation.
Look, I would suggest it would be something we need to ask staff to come back with, perhaps in association with one or two subcommittee members, to actually develop, you know, a proposed package to the next meeting.
I think Charlotte looked.
Yep, I think that would be what I was going to say. So the next meeting, we really want to discuss things around LTP. So I think this is a core one that we've been looking at, is around what does activation look like for the next LTP. So I think that would be perfect timing to say, okay, what does it look like and what's the different quantums and how would it actually have the change and what would it look like?
Yeah.
So I think the next subcommittee meeting would be ideal.
Okay.
Do we require an action
do we need
or
a motion for
a
that?
noting just to note?
We can just note it.
Is it a case that it's already in play and that was the intention of the next meeting?
The intention of the next meeting is address long-term plan direction out of this subcommittee for Central City. So that was one of the key areas that we'd heard to focus on.
Okay. Thank you. That sounds good. Councillor Mead.
Sorry, can I
Sorry.
just add one extra
sorry to cut you
comment
off,
before Councillor Mead. So Sarah, just on your question, I note our resolution also talks about of the $150,000, some of the balance of that would go to activation. So that obviously would be available to support what you've referred to there. There is obviously the work that the community development team has been doing in terms of, so part of that is, I guess, in scope. The other thing I'd also note is that if there is something that the subcommittee feels would be meritorious and there isn't budget, there's nothing to stop the subcommittee requesting that the Finance and Insurance Committee could look at for next financial year, just an unbudgeted amount of money set aside for activation. So you know, there is that option as well. So if you think that there's something in 26, 27 year, there isn't a budget for it, we need a bit of extra money, that is also a direction. So again, I think that can be all part of the consideration as we head towards the LTP, but it's certainly an option.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Mead.
Thank you, Chair Jeff. As a question, has any consideration been given to going back to the overnight cleaning of the streets that we used to have, like the scrubbers went down there in the morning, we had clean streets, because I noticed that there's water blasting going on, and the water blasting that's been going on is on the bricks, and they tend to blow the stuff out in between them, and it was done 11 o'clock at night, and it covered all the cars down outside the museum and rubbish, mine being one of them. And we used to scrub the streets overnight, and they'd come in the morning, they were clean, they had a little mobile that did it, and it just gave presentation. Has there any consideration been given to going back to that?
We do have a limited level of service, Councillor Mead, in that area after hours. We also have to factor in safety concerns of staff that are in working those hours. Going back to 2012, 2015, a lot of those changes of level of service happened. So if that was a desire of the committee for us to look at bringing back increased levels of service, we can definitely do that through the long-term plan process for future.
Yeah, and if you could consider the water blasting thing, it's loosening bricks, but there are a lot of grumpy owners of cars down there with 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night, which just seemed a silly time to do it.
Oh, sorry, I've got Councillor Strange. Do you mind if I just jump in? Well, oh no, you go. You go. I'll try and remember it.
What do you think the Waikato Regional Council's view would be on making Anglesey Street a public transport priority route? Obviously, they run the buses.
I believe, I'm just looking at Robin, she may have further information, but I believe that that's part of the wider study that's been undertaken as to the future locations.
And I wonder whether that's going to be answered as part of the wider response to that resolution there, Councillor Strange.
Okay.
Unless, Robin, you had anything to add, but...
Good morning, councillors. Regional Council have been heavily involved with all of the work that we have been doing on Anglesey Street and the future public transport, and Anglesey Street's also shown in their future planning that has been developed more recently for looking at at least the 10 years and longer focus. So, yeah, Regional Council are all involved in that process, noting that they are the service providers.
Thank you. Sorry, Jeff.
No problem at all.
On the tender that was commissioned last year for the report on Anglesey Street, that was milestone package on 26th of January, is that report completed? Is it available to us? Because I'm a little bit adverse to going and spending more money when that contract value was $1 million, if that was the report cost. Is that report available, and when can we see it?
Good morning, councillors. The report is not available. It was finishing at July next year. We are hoping to bring it forward and finish it earlier, and it will be shared when it is available. But yes, this would be a good point to update and give you a good update on where that is at.
I'm just reading from the tender that it was first milestone package 28th of January, and then capacity again by 28th of January and reporting back. So that's another 12 months away from that report yet?
So the 28th of January was, I guess, a progress milestone. Yes, so it was basically just starting that report, and we went back to NIFCO and we met that milestone with NIFCO and achieved that milestone, but that was not the full report. That was just, this is where we're at this process.
So can we at some time see the scope of what's going on around that report? Because it's a bit...
That is the intention of that, yep.
I think this resolution here is to...
Yep.
Yeah, so long as we're not spending more money on top of what we're already spending on.
I think to be clear, that the funding for this report, councillors, is from the IF grant, and NIFCO that JB referred to is the funding partner. So that the work is being done in conjunction with the $150 million IF grant, and within that, the $1 million allocated to this. So it would be my expectation that this report back will cover where things are at, what the scope is, and the progress of that investigation, business case.
Yeah, no, fine. Thanks.
Councillor Thompson, back to you.
Thank you. Sorry, one final question is actually for Charlotte, probably. Just thank you. Musical chairs, yeah.
This was always going to be the everything report, so.
Yeah. Thank you. And question is, in terms of climate change, the more extreme weather we're seeing, what are we able to do in our central city to improve resilience? Noting, for example, we did look at putting trees down certain streets and the utilities didn't allow for that. So there's things like cooling or shade are not really very easy to achieve.
So thank you for the question. So there's a few things that we're looking at. So through the climate team, they have recently got some research done around urban heat. So looking at urban heat island effect and understanding where those priority areas are for where we're seeing the most extremes during heat waves or during temperatures where it exacerbates it. So there's parts of the city in the central city last year when we had the heat wave that were 40 degrees because of that urban heat island effect. So we've been working to look at, while we can't get trees on Alexander Street, where else could we put those trees? And where are the priority areas to then make sure we've got cooling spaces that people can go to during those sort of weather events? And the other thing is then looking at opportunities. Obviously, the way we manage stormwater and all of those things, the more green space that we do bring in, the better it is in terms of being able to drain away. So we are looking at those things and trying to influence it. And I think that helps with the Central City Transformation Plan and looking at what those priorities are through that work as well.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, are there any further questions? I don't seem to be. Okay, so we have on page 37 some recommendations there. And you have a further recommendation from me which currently doesn't have a seconder. Is anyone of a mind to second that? Councillor Strange, thank you. All right, I'm just proposing to take them all together unless there's any, but I'm not hard and fast on that. It's really just a request for more information.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm just wondering, did you have a chance to talk with staff around capacity for this? Because I'm aware just that we're likely looking at moving out a briefing on minor transport improvements because of capacity issues. And so just the date in there, whether there is the capacity to bring that back at the level of detail you need?
I don't need a lot of detail, Councillor
Okay.
Thompson. I haven't asked about capacity because I regard this as a real priority. I remember I attended Future Proof before Christmas where this was mentioned, and I voiced concern there that this council hasn't had any visibility over this, and if there's proposals to make Anglesey Street our major public transport street and to make Tristram Street the biggest traffic route, then I think this council needs to have a chat about that and get some visibility. So I'm not proposing a detailed report, but I do really want an update, and I think it's a real high priority.
Okay, yep, if it's not super detailed.
No. All right, well look, I've moved the motion as a whole and we have a seconder, so we'll go into debate. All right. I thank you staff for this report. Look, it's always going to be a really good kind of wash-up report for us, I think, because it covers a whole lot of areas. It updates us across the board, which is what we need as a subcommittee. We need to know in the central city what's happening in the various areas. So I thank staff for that. I'm supportive of the guardian role, or the custodian role, whatever we're going to call it, us having a crack at that and seeing how it works. And I'm also supportive of funds being redirected to activation from that too. I have to be honest and say there are from page 47 onwards, there's a number of projects here mentioned based on the last CCTP, which I think we need to discuss as a subcommittee at some point, because I'm not supportive of them myself, and I think it's based on another council's thinking, and it'd be really good for this council to have a chance to get its head around it, and this subcommittee in particular. And in terms of my part of the resolution here, I certainly want this subcommittee to get visibility over the public transport plans for Anglesey Street. They have sort of been boiling away in the background, and I think particularly this new council needs to get its head around that. I have major concerns about the idea of Tristram Street with a school, a Wintec and a park and residential area there becoming the major freight and general transport route for the city. I'm not sure it's designed for it. So I think this is a debate that would be really nice to have, and at least the update will give us a chance to talk about that. Thank you. Councillor Strange.
Yeah, just a short contribution in terms of the report. There are a number of upgrades happening that will help us with our connection to the river. I cite, for example, the work around the museum in the Wellington Street beach, and I just like to commend the work that's been done in that area, and just to encourage staff and those elected members here that the river is an absolute taonga for us, and anything that we can do to continue to promote access to the river is excellent. So well done.
Mead.
Thank you, Chair. Jeff, 100% in support of where you're going with this, and thank you.
Yes, very succinct, thank you. That's great. Any further debate, folks? All right, well, I'll put the recommendations on page 37, plus that one. Those in favour? Aye. Those against?
Carried unanimously.
Thank you. And I believe we're done. Bang on midday. How's that?
Thank you.
Thanks for your cooperation, guys. Cheers.